This is the moment a woman is stopped just outside a Walmart, and what starts as a simple shoplifting detention quickly spirals out of control. An employee approaches her in the parking lot and asks her to come back inside the store. He tells her to bring her cart with her, trying to keep the situation from escalating in public. At first, she hesitates and questions what's going on, but eventually she turns around and pushes the cart back into the store. Once inside, the tone immediately shifts. The employee stops her and asks for identification. She says she doesn't have an ID, but can give her name. That's when he makes it clear. She's being stopped for shoplifting. She immediately pushes back. She insists she paid for everything, saying she scanned her items at the register, and even mentions an employee who supposedly saw her do it. But the employee points directly at the cart and the purse she's carrying. He says he watched her take the purse off the shelf and remove the tags. He also claims some of the items in the cart were bagged without being paid for. He asks for her receipt.
She hands it over, explaining she made 2 separate transactions. As he checks it, he confirms that certain items, specifically the purse and some clothing, are not on the receipt. At this point, he tells her to step away from the cart and not touch anything inside it. She becomes more frustrated, raising her voice and insisting again that she paid for her items. The employee calls for assistance and begins escorting her toward the store's office. He repeatedly tells her to walk with him and keep her distance from the cart. She argues the entire way, demanding her money be refunded and saying she just wants to leave. But he makes it clear, she is not free to go. Inside the office, he instructs her to sit down on a bench. She refuses at first, continuing to argue and demand a refund for her purchases. She says if there's an issue with the purse or the small items, she'll just pay for them and leave. But that option is no longer on the table. The employee explains again that she's being detained for shoplifting. She continues to deny it, saying it doesn't make sense to be stopped over something so minor. As the situation escalates, she tries to move around and regain control of her belongings.
That's when the employee steps in physically. He tells her to stop resisting and attempts to place her in handcuffs. She pulls away, saying she will comply and sit down, but by now, the situation has already crossed into physical resistance. The employee warns her multiple times to stop tensing up. When she doesn't fully comply, he takes her to the ground. She falls forward, yelling that she can't breathe and demanding to be let go. After a brief struggle, he secures her hands behind her back in handcuffs. She's then helped back up and placed on the bench. Now restrained, she continues arguing loudly. She says she's never been in trouble before, insists she's not a thief, and repeatedly demands her money back. She also accuses the employee of being aggressive and claims she was slammed to the ground unnecessarily. At this point, additional staff and a supervisor arrive. The employee explains that she refused to comply and resisted when he tried to detain her. She continues to interrupt, denying that she resisted and demanding that the claim be removed. As the situation continues, she begins complaining about pain in her wrist and asks for medical assistance. Paramedics are called to the scene. While waiting, she becomes increasingly emotional. She says she has work the next day, worries about losing her job, and repeatedly states she cannot go to jail. Despite attempts to calm her down, she continues to stand up, argue, and refuse instructions.
She is told multiple times to stay seated, but keeps getting up and shouting. Eventually, officers inform her that she is under arrest, not just for shoplifting, but also for resisting. She reacts strongly to this, saying she never resisted and that the situation is being blown out of proportion. She pleads again to just pay for the items and leave, but it's too late. Store policy and the law have already taken over. As paramedics arrive, officers prepare to move her out to a patrol vehicle. She continues to resist verbally, demanding her family be called and insisting she shouldn't be treated this way. At one point, officers warn her that if she doesn't calm down, they may need to restrain her legs as well. Eventually, she is placed into the back of a patrol car. Still upset, still arguing, and still insisting.
This all started over something small, but ended with her in handcuffs, facing arrest. This is the moment deputies arrive at a home for what they think is a simple welfare check, only to uncover something far more disturbing. On May 5th, 2023, deputies in Florida are dispatched to check on a woman who hasn't been seen for several days. Right away, something feels off. As they approach the house, they notice a strong, unusual smell coming from inside. The property itself looks neglected, cluttered, damaged, and partially falling apart. Deputies begin by speaking with neighbors. No one has seen the woman recently. Some say it's been days. Others aren't even sure how long it's been. There are mentions of a man staying at the property, possibly in his 30s, but no clear answers. With growing concern, deputies attempt to make contact at the house. There's no response. So they check local hospitals, hoping maybe the woman was admitted somewhere, but she's nowhere to be found. At this point, they return to the house to take a closer look. This time, someone answers.
A man comes outside. Deputies immediately begin asking questions. He claims he hasn't seen the woman in a few days, says she left and hasn't come back. But something doesn't add up. The smell is still strong, and the man's behavior starts to raise suspicion. Deputies ask to check inside the house. At first, there's hesitation. Doors are locked, barricaded, and his explanation for how he gets in doesn't make sense. Eventually, he lets them inside, and what they find changes everything. Inside the home, deputies discover the woman's body. It's clear she's been there for some time. The man is brought outside immediately. At this point, deputies read him his rights. Now the story starts to unravel. When questioned again, his timeline begins to shift. He admits he actually saw the woman recently, just days earlier. Then, under pressure, he reveals something even more concerning. He had already seen her inside the house, in the condition she was found, which means he knew she was there the entire time. And yet, he never called for help. Deputies confront him about the smell, about the obvious signs. Why didn't he report it? Why lie? He struggles to give a clear answer. What began as a missing person check turns into a death investigation, and the man who claimed to know nothing is now at the center of it. By the end of the interview, deputies have more questions than answers. But one thing is clear: this was never just a welfare check.
This is the moment police officers track down and arrest an 18-year-old who accidentally live-streamed his own break-in. On October 9th, 2024, police receive an unusual call. But this isn't a normal witness report. Instead, the caller is watching a live stream and claims someone is actively breaking into a condo building. Officers don't have a clear location. They don't have a description. All they have is the suspect's own live stream. As officers arrive at the building, confusion sets in. They scan windows, hallways, and staircases, but they can't immediately find anyone. Meanwhile, dispatch continues feeding them updates directly from the live stream. The suspect is moving between floors. At one point, he's seen carrying a generator and a gas can up the stairs. That raises serious concerns. Police begin to suspect this isn't just trespassing. This could be something more dangerous. Officers split up and start clearing floors. The building is partially under construction, with multiple open or broken doors, making it even harder to track the suspect. Then, things escalate. Dispatch reports the suspect may be holding a knife. Now, officers prepare for a potentially armed confrontation. They move carefully through stairwells and blind corners, trying to predict where he'll appear next. Finally, they close in.
An officer spots movement near a stairwell, and within seconds, "Let me see your hands! Police!" The suspect immediately surrenders. He drops to the ground, repeatedly saying he's cooperating. Once detained, the situation takes an unexpected turn. The suspect explains. He's not a burglar.
he's filming a YouTube video. He claims he entered because the door was open and says he was just taking shelter and recording content. But officers aren't convinced. He was inside a private building he doesn't live in, walking around with a knife and live streaming the entire situation. Officers explained just how dangerous this was. In a state like Florida, property owners are legally allowed to defend their homes, potentially with deadly force. From their perspective, this could have ended far worse. What the suspect thought was content could have easily been mistaken for a real threat. Police recover additional items, including tools and equipment. They also confirmed that the entire incident was being broadcast live, meaning viewers were watching everything unfold in real time. In fact, it was likely a viewer who reported him to police in the first place. What started as a live stream for views ended with an arrest and a harsh lesson. In the real world, actions have consequences, even if you're doing it for content.